Okay, it is 6 o'clock on the nose, and I'm going to open the meeting for the City Council, for the Economic Development Committee. First, I have to read this chair statement. This meeting is being recorded by the Economic Development Committee. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. In accordance with MGL C30A, yada, yada, no person shall address a meeting of the public body without permission of the chair, and all persons shall, at the request of the chair, be silent. No person shall disrupt the proceedings of a meeting but the public body. If, after clear warning from the chair, I'm going to read this because I think we're supposed to. A person continues to disrupt the proceedings, the chair may order the person to withdraw from the meeting, and if the person does not withdraw, the chair may authorize a constable or other officer to remove the person from the meeting. I think in the case of Zoom, you just mute them.
You can kick them out.
You can eject them.
You can eject them, yeah.
All right, let me see if there's anybody else I have to admit.
Derek is here.
Okay.
I'll just
All right, so I've opened the meeting for the EDC. I'll do a roll call for us and then I'll turn it over to you, Chuck. Okay, roll call. Councillor Elmer, that's me and I'm here. Councillor Gilmore is here. Councillor Healy.
Here.
Oh, excellent, thank you. And Councillor Mayo.
Hold on, I'm here.
I'm here, okay. And we hear both of you. Any members of the press? No. Okay. Oh, you are? And who are you representing?
Chris Larrabee from the Reporter.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Chuck, you want to do your roll call? Open the meeting for your guys?
Sure, I'm going to open up the planning board version of this public hearing at 6:02. Roll call, David Chichester. Here. Charles Roberts here, George Slumpsis. Here. Chuck Kinney. Here. Okay, so our board's all present and accounted for.
Okay, the mayor has joined us, I see. Okay, this is a public hearing, a joint public hearing with the planning board and the EDC about a proposed zoning amendment to rezone the following parcels on French King Highway from general commercial GC to planned industrial PI. I'm going to read the numbers: R0431, R0433, R0441, R0444, and R0523. Before we open the public hearing, maybe, Eric, maybe you could show on the map what we're talking about. And Chuck, maybe you could tell us why the planning board has proposed
Sure.
First, I'll just point out the extent of what we're trying to do on the map and the other map as well. And then I'll let Chairman Roberts read his list. So this is the French King Highway, the northeast section of the city of Greenfield. This is the site of the big box store that never got built, but it would have been right here. This, just for reference, is the White Ass Swamp parcel that's connected to this parcel, also the White Ass Swamp, part of the Nolan Beacon project right here. This part in the yellow, which consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parcels, was in the original proposal, but has been removed. It's from King Road all the way to this parcel right here, parcel 41. So this section right here is the revised proposed rezoning of this area from the pink, which is general commercial, to this dashed line outlined area, which would be planned industry, which is the same as this area here, the blue area. If you look at the larger map, the blue area right here is right here. The I-91 Industrial Park. Right here, which is contiguous to the proposed parcels to be rezoned. This would turn from general commercial pink to this bluish purple color, which is planned industry.
Chuck, you want to talk about why?
Yeah, just first of all, getting back to the map for a second. So Eric, one of the things that this map points out is just sort of the relative area that's dedicated to planned industry versus residential in general. I know that residential sort of opportunity is one of the things we want to be thinking about in context of this particular property and part of the reasons why we've made the decisions we have about this particular initiative. So
Let me just quickly go over the residential district so you can see that. Thank you for pointing that out. So this is the only area in the entire city that's on planned industry. The districts that allow housing, 1 family, 2 family, and 3 families by right, which most communities do not do, and accessory dwelling units detached by special permit. Rural residential is the white. So this entire area of white, all that housing is allowed. Green is suburban residential, 1, 2, and 3 families, accessory dwelling units allowed by right. Internal accessory dwelling units, the detached are always by special permit. The area in yellow is urban residential, also allows 1, 2, and 3 families by right. Semi-residential, this greenish color that's right next to the hospital area in downtown, Central Commercial District, allows 1 and 2 and 3 families by right. The Central Commercial District itself allows multifamily, defined as 4 or more units by right, and it also allows 2 and 3 families. So if you can look at the entire area of the city, which is, if you look at that, it's 90% of the land area, just by looking at it, allows all those housing types by right.
right, and so what we're talking about, you know, annexing on to the planned industry is just a little tiny sliver, really, along the French King, which the majority of which is still going to remain general commercial.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So we're taking another stab at it here. We went through this process earlier in the year of initiating this map change, and the city council voted it down for a number of reasons, but one of them was about the opportunity for housing, and that maybe zoning this planned industry could potentially be a loss for housing opportunities in town. I think Eric's demonstration of the overall area available for housing by right and multifamily by I guess by special permit and also by right is really well. There's lots of opportunity in town for that. And what we did do here is we rolled back the overall planned industry sort of zone from what was initially proposed to so that those lots down there in the lower left-hand corner of the map remain general commercial, and general commercial does allow multifamily by special permit.
By special permit.
Yeah, so there's still multifamily opportunities out there, and then 2 and 3 family development is allowed by right in that zone still. So we feel that it was a compromise, and it still pushes forward the initiative that we really believe in on the planning board, which is creating more opportunities for planned industry development out of this end of town. So there is a memo here that was drafted on March 20th, 2023, which Eric and I drafted, and I signed it after the positive recommendation, or after this board initiated the current zoning round for the second time. So I'm just going to read this quickly. The members of the planning board wanted the following to be noted in their discussion. So this revised map leaves additional properties to the east as general commercial, which allows 2 and 3 family development by right, which are those areas we talked about. There has been clearly demonstrated demand for industrial land in Greenfield, New Pro, Dumont, and Valley Steel Stamp, as well as others. The city of Greenfield and Franklin County as a whole simply do not have enough available industrial land zoned. The industrial sector share of property value in Greenfield is only 4%. Industrial jobs are a critical goal of our sustainable master plan of 2014. Retail jobs cannot significantly lift our local economy. The city needs livable wage jobs. The expanded zone will be open to all interested industrial entrepreneurs, not just 1 or 2 companies. The specific industrial product produced is not a zoning issue. There's concern about what are some of these businesses going to be manufacturing, and it's not really a zoning issue. The specific, the board believes that the compromise made relative to the new library will not be jeopardized by this map amendment. Because the zoning compromise didn't really look at the underlying zoning, it looked at primarily rolling back the French King overlay district. Approximately 87% of Greenfield's land area by zoning is available for residential development, single family, two family, and three family homes by right. Mixing housing uses with industrial goes against, basic zoning principles. There was discussion about, well, maybe we should allow, housing in with the planned industrial. That would create a whole new zone that doesn't really exist in the town, and it's just not sound planning practices to start mixing those kinds of uses together. So those are some of the thoughts that we had as the board when we reinitiated this proposal. And does anybody else from my board have any comments they'd like to add at this point? David?
Addressing the housing issue, I just wanted to take a slightly different look at that. I had the pleasure of sitting in on the housing committee meeting last night and was absolutely thrilled by all of the hard work that's going on. And if you start adding up the housing opportunities for short-term housing, there are things like 60 Wells Street. There's the residential part of the Wilson's project. There's Abercrombie project that's going on. And maybe the mayor knows a number of possible or potential housing opportunities that there might be. But I got the impression that there's a lot going on, and MJ Adams has been doing a fabulous job in pursuing some of that. And I just wanted to add that to the issue of housing, that there's a lot going on in town that should be at least acknowledged as we look at the housing problems. So.
Okay, thanks, David.
Go ahead.
Okay, if I ask a question, or should we wait till?
Well, we want to open up the public hearing.
I'll wait.
I mean,
can wait.
I guess if the question is informative for the folks that may be commenting.
I wanted to know the difference between two different zones. Is that something?
Sure.
Okay. The planned industrial and planned industry and general industry. I'm not sure if I understand the difference between the two, and they're right next to each other.
Yes.
Or well, would be if, if that.
This is its own general industry, but it's, I don't know how to word it.
It would border the other one.
This is kind of like false advertising in terms of, because this is totally undevelopable. It's not, it's its own industry. It'll never be used as industry. So it probably should be rezoned to the white to reflect reality, but right now it is zoned general industry. So the main difference between the planned industry and the general industry is that the general industry has a greater mix of uses allowed. It allows some types of housing by special permit. Planned industry is more of a campus-like setting for industrial development. It has greater setbacks to give it a campus-like setting. So the uses are not identical. This is more for industrial park type of planning. The general industry is more for general industry uses, including minor type of uses.
So while you're up here, maybe you could address the head of the fish, as I call it, the swamp. Tell us why you say that's not developable, and give us a little background about the Native Americans' claims on it.
Well, I mean, this is part of the White Ass Swamp, which continues on to this land, which is owned by the Noam Beaker Project. And so the big box store involved these two parcels right here. This is the 18-acre parcel, and this is a 10-acre parcel. And during the process of getting it permitted, they were going to deed restrict this property and actually give it over to the Noam Beaker Project, once the store was built. That never happened, so they never followed through, but they did make promises. So current negotiations are happening between the Noam Beaker Project and the heirs or whoever's the managing company of Ceruzzi's land here. So David Brule, who's the director, he's on the board of directors for the Noam Beaker Project. He has reached out to them, and They're actually considering possibly deeding this over to them, so that's good news. So it's very important to the Native Americans. Right now, part 3 of the battlefield grant that the town of Montague got to study the King Philip's War. The 3rd phase comes into Greenfield to do a bunch of mapping and searching for artifacts. So, and this land will be part of it, right here. I mean, there's known artifacts here in this parcel here. That's why they really wanted to protect it. But you removed all of those types of issues and just stuck with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act. This parcel is still not developable whatsoever because of the resource areas under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay, thank you. I know there's some concern in the council about whether we could give that land to the Norumbeka project as was promised. As the mayor pointed out, we don't actually own the land, but I'm glad to see that negotiations are going on. That would actually, I think, make a lot of people feel much better. And before I open it up, I want to say one more thing. Valley Steel Stamp, which initiated this and brought the idea to the mayor about rezoning, has since, they wanted to expand. There's some land in Connecticut they're thinking about expanding to. And I read in the paper that they're actually probably going to go to Connecticut. And I think that's actually good news in a way, because anybody who's toured Valley Steel Stamp knows that basically what they do is make pistol parts. And there's some counselors who don't like the idea of pistol parts being made in Greenfield. I would remind them that Greenfield's economic base was based on precision manufacturing for just this kind of stuff. And that at one point, there were anti-aircraft guns around Greenfield to protect the tap and die industry that was so important to the war. I probably said too much. Let me, if there's no more from either of us, I'm sorry that I was not able to connect my computer to show the graphics, but because there was some good research done about how much land, this isn't going to show, is it? No. But it's that not, nearly 90% is residential and general planned industry is less than 4%. And we know anecdotally and from reading the paper that there are companies looking for that kind of land. I think my position on this has been said enough. I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to read the language and open up the conversation to the people calling in. So let me back up, apologize for the papers, see if anybody else needs to be entered. Okay. So this is, we're going to read this again before the end, but I'm going to read it now before the public hearing. The city, this is order number FY 23-152. The city council moved that it be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning map to rezone the following parcels of French King Highway from general commercial to planned industry: RO 431, RO 433, RO 441, RO 444, and RO 523 attached map, and further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes in the numbering to the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield. A 2/3 vote is going to be required in the city council. So with that, without objection, at 6:19, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
We have one person in the room here. We want to give them first.
Okay. Let's start with the person who actually showed up. Hey, Sue, you want to talk? And meanwhile, maybe I can figure out how to invite people.
Can people type in the chat if they want to speak? I know the mayor's typed in.
Okay, yeah, let me get the chat open. Thank you. Go ahead, Jesus.
I'm gonna kind of read from a great statement because I don't want to miss anything.
Just, your full name and address, please.
Oh, yeah, Jesus Leyva, 32 High Street, Greenfield, Mass. I'm speaking in favor of the proposed zoning change of French King Highway parcel listed from general commercial plan industrial. It's my understanding that the primary reason this was rejected by city council was with the possibility that mixed-use housing could be a zoning use for these lots. In my opinion, this is short-sighted. If we want to be able to have a municipal tax base that supports city services such as schools with as low a tax burden to residential property owners as possible, then we need to diversify our tax base. This is one of many reasons for our current budget struggles. A tax base that is primarily residential makes it difficult to create a budget that adequately supports city services without high property taxes. Hadley, for example, has a local tax base capable of locally funding their schools at 3 times the amount that Greenfield can. And while there are a variety of factors that contribute, it's very easy to see the difference in the amount of non-residential property that Hadley has. We can argue about whether big box stores are good or bad for a community and local businesses, but it's difficult to argue with the value of a diversified tax base. We need to look at the most appropriate zoning use for each parcel in the city so that we can have a balanced tax base. By focusing on housing and excluding other considerations, we pass up the opportunity to grow our tax base in a way that will bring more funding resources to planning and economic development so that we can dedicate more city staff time to the best possible solutions and outcome for creating more affordable housing. We also risk being a bedroom community or worse, an economically depressed area, and Greenfield is probably some of both of those things at this point. If we want Greenfield to be a successful community, we need to promote economic growth and housing. And many places in the city could be appropriate for creating new housing, as everybody had previously said during the meeting. Very few are appropriate for industrial zoning. I hope we will consider the long-term value of this rezoning proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is someone on the chat and tell us who's put their names in? Can you see the chat?
I can't see it.
Okay, let me see if I can.
I know the mayor put her name in.
Well, let's, if someone on the Zoom, in the Zoom universe wants to speak, why don't you raise your hand? David, are you raising your hand? Yes, there you are. Oh, the mayor is there first, so yes. Go ahead, Mayor.
Well, I'm fine. I'm also fine with deferring to David. But I just wanted to associate myself with the memo that the council, that the planning board gave to you. And there's great wisdom in what Jesus just said. This is a great opportunity, which is why I put it forward almost a year ago, for us to expand the industrial park, which really needs expansion. There is interest all up and down Western Massachusetts for expanded industrial property, particularly as it relates to
Sorry. There, keep going, please.
more light industry, advanced manufacturing, precision manufacturing. We are running out of space in the current industrial park. This is an ideal location for expansion, and it is really critical that we create a tax base that is geared to commercial and industrial industry, as was pointed out earlier about the small percentage that is devoted to that. This is our opportunity to do that. We have some property in the industrial park, very, very, very difficult to develop. That is available, and we are certainly seeking out ways in which it's also owned privately. And we're certainly seeking out ways to make that more agreeable to certain types of businesses that want to develop there. But the property itself is difficult to develop, and it would need a great deal of money invested by whoever might want to develop there. With regard to the Nolambika project, I did put David Brule in text with the people representing the owner of that property now. And I'm glad to hear, because I hadn't gotten an update from him, that he is having discussions with them. That's really great news. With regard to Steve Capshaw in particular, Valley Steel Stamp, I don't think he is expanding where he is. Yes, he is looking for additional expansion space, but I'm not, he wants to remain a Massachusetts company and remain in the city that he grew up in. So we continue to help him with that. So I think it is a win-win situation all around to approve this zoning and let the Economic Development Department and the mayor's office go forward with whatever we can do to promote this property. I think that that it is it's definitely something that it is our opportunity to compete with some of our surrounding communities in Franklin County who do have industrial developed land and are moving forward with attracting businesses to it.
Thank you, Mayor. David?
Thank you, everybody. First of all, I want to thank you for your hard work and your determination on this issue. Right off the bat, I'm hopeful that at minimum, the planning board will send a positive recommendation. So if the city council still doesn't see their way to pass this, you can keep coming back again and again until they do. I support what's been said so far by the mayor and others. I'm not here necessarily to weigh in on that. I think that what I've said to some of the counselors who seem a little bit hesitant is that Valley Steel Stamp is a red herring in this conversation. This is really about changing the zoning for the best use. And I think there's enough evidence out there. Councillor Healy has spoken to it many times, and I honor what he has said, that the land's some of the best use for that land would be industrial. And so that's the reason to do it. If Valley Steel Stamp works out a deal with Stop and Shop, then that's fine. But that should not be the reason one way or the other, in my opinion, that you vote this way. It's more for the broader benefit of the community. As far as housing goes, I want to be respectful to the opinions of others, especially members of the council who have been hesitant because of the housing issue. I think that what you've done is split the baby in half in a thoughtful way. I think, in fact, the zoning board just allowed a special permit for single family residents in the zone that you're looking to keep as general commercial. So I think that area is good for commercial and housing, and the area that you've determined will remain in the industrial is the right way to go. The last thing I'd like to say, and this is not an original idea, I can't take credit for it, and I'm sure Eric would have to help you in this, but I'm wondering if you could add, even you're taking a zone that's already has the particulars. I'm wondering if you could call this a planned industrial special, where you add, as either a matter of right or by special permit, the ability for a hotel or motel to go there. I can imagine a beautiful Marriott at the site where the Walmart was going to be. And sadly, I think some of the land down by the Rotary, which once had use of that nature, is going to be used for something different. And we're kind of running out of land there. So I don't want to muck you up, because I know you want to get this through as it is, and maybe there'll be an amendment later. But I'm just going to end my piece by saying that I think that would be something good to add. And you could just add it by, again, calling the zone something, like calling a special district where that's added. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you vote yes, and I hope that the city council also votes yes to pass this.
Hey, Doug, you've got your hand up. I want to remind you that we will be discussing this within the committee at our next meeting. What's the word we'll be thinking about? Deliberating. You'll be deliberating at the next meeting, and we'll all get our chance to say it. But you're hearing out. This is the public hearing. Go.
Well, if we're going to be deliberating this at our next meeting, I could wait until then. I really don't have. I've been thinking about what the group has been saying, and I am happy that the way that it's been discussed, and it sounds to me like 90% of this land that we're talking about could be used for housing, and that's been my main concern all along, is the use for housing. I have a question for the mayor. Has this land been looked at seriously for building housing units in any form?
No.
Counselor Elmer, are you okay with me answering?
Yes, but let me just clarify the question. Doug, are you asking about the tail of the fish or the entire fish?
Well, I'm only talking about where there would be opportunities for housing built in that area. There's only one slim area for industrial, so I don't. Doesn't make any sense to talk about, to push the housing issue there, just because it's not zoned for that. But I'm just more concerned about pursuing, or if there's been any pursuit by the town to build on that, on those housing zoned areas.
No. Go ahead, Mayor. Sure.
There has been, over the years, and I know this property well, there has never been interest in locating housing there at all. And I'm not even sure it's appropriate for housing per se. There are many other, and I didn't address that in my previous remarks. We even have, in terms of somebody mentioning, are there other opportunities out there? There's some work being done on Main Street to do some upper story Main Street redevelopment for housing, not just in the Wilson's property, for market rate housing. So there are different opportunities that are available throughout Greenfield for housing, as we've talked about this evening. But as far as that property goes, no. Only people who have ever looked at that property, as we know, are people who are interested in doing commercial or industrial development there. That is, I'm hoping I'm answering your question properly, Councilor Mayo. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, both of you. So we have some new people in the room. We're open. I'm sorry you missed the beginning, but if anybody, this is open to public comment. Raise your hand if you'd like to say something. Yes, Al Norman, you want to say your name and address?
Yes, I'm Al Norman, 21 Grinnell Street. I'm actually not a new person. I'm pretty old. But I'll take that label anytime. May I speak for a couple of minutes?
Yeah, try to keep it to 3 if you can.
I'll do my best, but don't look at your watch. I'm late because we were just at a legislative hearing on home equity theft in the State House. So the comments I want to make, I've been speaking about this for many, many years, if you recall some of my early testimony, but I wanted to look at a particular issue I haven't really looked at before. And it's sort of the where we are today as a city with our industrial development. So my statement is, after many industrial mergers, bankruptcies, and relocations, Greenfield is not an industrial leader anymore in Franklin County. Greenfield today ranks 5th in Franklin County for industrial levy value. That's the total value of our industrial property. We rank behind Irving, Rowe, Northfield, and Deerfield. One abutting town that I particularly want to focus on, because the towns of Irving and Rowe and Northfield have very large energy plants, and that's why they have a high industrial value. But the case with Deerfield is very instructive. Deerfield now holds a commanding lead over Greenfield in the development of industrial property tax revenue. Greenfield has 3.5 times more people than Deerfield, yet the industrial level levy in Deerfield is $1.3 million, which is 1.5 times larger than Greenfield's, which is $856,165 for the industrial levy. Again, this is the actual taxes that you get from your industrial property. Deerfield's industrial land produces $255 per capita in taxes, while Greenfield's industrial land yields only $48.50 per capita in taxes. 9.7% of Deerfield's total tax revenue comes from its industrial sector, while only 2.27% of Greenfield's total tax revenue comes from its industrial sector. Deerfield, a town with only 29% of Greenfield's population, squeezes out an additional $447,618 in tax revenue from its industrial property. If Greenfield had the same industrial revenue per capita as Deerfield, it would have an industrial levy of $4.5 million instead of $856,000, more than 5 times our current industrial tax levy. Just within the past year, the Dumont Company, which started in Greenfield in 1945, used a $2.8 million mass development tax exempt bond to purchase land in Deerfield to buy a new manufacturing facility. And Newpro, based in Deerfield and Whately, had been searching for space to consolidate operations since 2019, including looking for sites in Greenfield. Quote, "We did a 15-mile radius from basically Deerfield, and our search came up pretty empty," co-founder Jeff Ethier said. Quote, "It's hard to find good industrial space in Franklin County," unquote. In the fall of 2022, Newpro bought 2 parcels of land in South Deerfield from the town. Finally, Valley Steel Stamp, now Next, has publicly announced that it is looking for a new production space outside of Greenfield as well as inside. We can't afford to let these decent paying jobs slip through our fingers. We are not a one-trick pony. Housing and retail needs do not have to come at the expense of livable wage jobs. And industry does not have to be an impediment to housing. I mean, this idea that we can only do one thing, we can only have one ball in the air, is just simply wrong. Greenfield, last thing I'll tell you is that, and I'll be writing more about this next month, but in the recorder, but as you all know, Greenfield's halcyon days were right at the beginning of World War II, when Greenfield happened to die, had more than 3,000 employees working 3 shifts, 24 hours a day. I mean, we were a very, very prosperous and well-known town, and our tools were sold all over the world. Now look at where we are, and look at what we've sort of let slip through. And I'm talking about, really, I've been talking about this for 30 years, that we've been letting slip through our fingers a lot of industrial opportunities. And now just in the past year, another 3 that we've lost, and maybe 4. So I just hope people will set aside their feelings that I'm committed to more retail or committed to more housing. You can have those things. There's actually quite a bit of new housing coming online in Greenfield when you take into account Wilson's department store, et cetera. But and industry has been a real declining part of our tax revenue. I think we're now seeing it in these figures that I researched regarding Deerfield. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anybody else in the room like to speak? Anybody else in Zoom land who would like to speak? In which case, seeing none, at 6:39, I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay, I'm now going to read the motion that was behind that hearing. I think I'm supposed to do it because it's here. And then we have another piece of business having to do with the sale of some land on Washington Street.
Can we just close our hearing too, Planning Board?
The public hearing, yes, close the public hearing.
I'm going to close the public. We have a vote on closing the public hearing for the Planning Board. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, I should take a vote on, all in favor of closing the public hearing on the EDC, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for teaching me a little Robert. Okay, moving on. I'm going to read the motion again. Do I have to do that, Sheila?
I didn't think we were reading the motion unless we were making a motion and debating it.
Okay.
If you want me to read it, I will.
Okay, and then you can read the one underneath.
Where is the?
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Move that it be ordered that the City Council of Greenfield amend the zoning map to rezone the following parcels on French King Highway from general commercial GC to planned industry PI, RO4-31, RO4-33, RO4-41, RO4-44, and RO5-23. See attached map. Further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and further the non-substantial changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the City of Greenfield.
Okay, and as I say, the planning board will be deliberating on this at your next meeting. Chuck, you're deliberating when?
Our next meeting,
June, no, their next meeting is June 1st. The May 18th meeting will be canceled, has been canceled, so the city council can use the room.
Okay,
Oh, don't remind me.
and we won't meet till June to deliberate too. Okay, so moving on, we have a motion. I don't seem to see written, but which we, this piece of business came before us last month. It's to authorize the mayor to sell some city-owned land located at 29 Washington Street. We actually deliberated on this and voted it and passed a positive recommendation to the city council. One of the councilors representing a neighbor asked that it be tabled because the neighbor thought they hadn't heard about it and wanted to have a chance to buy it. Is she here by any chance? No, she isn't. So I think, I don't know that we have to vote on it again. I think we can bring it to the city council with the same vote that we had last time. I will say in the way of background, we checked with the planning department. That is a buildable lot. There was some communication between the city hall and the neighbor. Basically she was told, you're a bidder like anybody else. You can bid, you can answer the request for proposal. If nobody answers it, because there are certain restrictions, you could offer to buy the property for the cost that the city put into clearing it. She's not here, and I think we can just go ahead and do that next city council meeting. Without objection, anybody have a problem with that? Derek or Doug or Sheila? Okay. Do you want, I think we should postpone deliberation till the next meeting. That would be my recommendation. And that we can wrap it up, I think. Any new business? Any old business? In that case, I'll just announce that the next meeting will be June 13th at 6 p.m. in City Hall Meeting Room, second floor, Zoom hybrid, unless otherwise postponed. And I would accept a motion for adjournment.
So
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I better close this meeting. End the meeting.